Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about styles. I want to show you a little bit more about styles. I mentioned it briefly in some previous videos, but I want to take a little bit of a deeper dive, start to gradually introduce you to some more things that you can do with styles. So now what you're looking at here is kind of the standard default template that Expo Snack gives you whenever you start a new project. It looks like this. So remember the three sections of our app. We have the import section at the top. We have the main body in the middle, main body of the function in the middle, and then at the bottom is the style section. Okay, so this part is the styles. Okay, now we talked about how you set up your styles in this section here, and then you can apply them to different components in your main body section right above here. So if you look at this one, for example, there are two different styles. There's a style for something called a container. That's this first section right here. And then there's another style for something called a paragraph, which is this section right here. So you can have multiple different sets of styles in the same app. And this one happens to have two different styles. Okay, now when you apply them, so we go up here to our main section here. Okay, so here, remember how we apply a style is we go to the opening tag of the component which we want to apply the style to, and then we put something like this. So see how this is set up? Within the opening tag, right before the closing angle bracket, I have style equals curly brace styles.container. Okay, and you can see for the text component, this one right here, I'm applying the paragraph style to that one. So the text component has style equals curly brace styles.paragraph. Okay, so where do all those things come from? Well, style, that's a keyword, so you can't change that. It always has to be style equals. And then your curly brace. Inside the curly brace, we have styles.container for the first one, for example. So if we look down here at our style section, the name of our style object was styles. So whatever you call it here, you can change the name of it. You just call it styles because that's kind of a suggestive name. We can remember what it is. But you could call it whatever you want. You could call it banana or dog or whatever. So whatever you call that styles object is what the first part of that is. So styles. And then a dot. When you see a dot in JavaScript, that usually means you're going to dig deeper one level into whatever it is you're looking at or you're talking about. You're going to go down one level in the styles object, and we're going to get the style for something called a container. So that's this one right here. Okay, so we're going to apply all these styles, the styles in that container section, we're going to apply those to the view. Remember, the view is the overall container. Every screen of your app has to have a view that contains everything. It's like a container that holds everything on the screen. Okay, so within the view, we got several things going on here, but these styles here are going to apply to the entire view. So everything inside the view is going to be governed by these styles here. Okay, in addition, the text component, which is inside the view, we want to apply the paragraph styles to that. Okay, so the text component, in addition, is going to have those styles applied to it there. You can see there's things like margin, font size, font weight, etc. Okay, so you can have multiple styles, multiple different sets of styles in the same app, and you can apply them to different components in your app, sort of like how we do here. Okay, so it's kind of a good thing to take a look at this default app that it gives you. Okay, now you might be wondering, well, where do I find out what the available different styles are? How do I know what those are? Okay, well, let me show you kind of how when I come across something in programming that I don't know the answer to right away, how do I find out the answer? Okay, well, in the old days, you would have to go to a book, an actual book, a physical book, and look it up. Okay, but nowadays it's great because we have the internet. So what we usually do is I'll open up a Google search screen, and I'll type, how about React Native styles. Okay, so let me take a look at what comes up there. And it looks like maybe the first thing here is maybe something that's fruitful. So let's take a look at what it says. So here, this looks like it's from the official React Native documentation. So let's see what it says. Well, talking about styles, with React Native, you style your application using JavaScript. all of the core components except a prop name style. The style names and values usually match how CSS works on the web, except names are written using camel casing, for example, background color rather than background dash color. Okay, so this looks like something that's useful here. Okay, this part right here, that's helpful. Because what that tells me is if I want to find out what the different options for styling things are, all I need to do is just look at my CSS references. So you could go to W3 Schools, that's a great one, or you could just look things up on the open internet. So when you see a CSS reference, though, a CSS style, there's a slight difference. They're talking about something called camel casing. That has to do with the way that you write the name of something. So if you look at this, for example, background dash color, that's how CSS does it. You might have remembered that from CSS. There's a lot of things that have dashes in it. Background dash color, font dash family. So there's things like that. Whereas in React Native, we're going to use a slight variation on that. This is called camel casing. So if you have a multi-word, like a variable name or the name of something in your program, programs don't accept spaces. They don't deal with spaces and names of stuff really well. So you can't have background space color. It's not gonna deal with that really well. You're gonna get some errors there. So one way of dealing with it is how regular standard CSS does, which is to put a dash between the words, background dash color instead of background space color. Another way to do it is this style called camel casing. So notice how that works. So I don't have a space between the words. I don't have a dash, but what I do is I smush the two words together and I make the first letter of the second word capital. So see how it's background and then color starts with a capital C, and notice how it's smushed together. Okay, all in one word. If I had more than two words, it would do the same thing. I'd smush all the words together, but I would capitalize the first letter in each of the second and onwards words. Okay, so see how that works? That's called camel casing. That's a very common style. You'll see that in a lot of programming languages. It's kind of a common style for specifying the names of things. You can't use spaces when you name variables. You can't have background space color. So the way to get around that is to use different styles. And one of the styles is called camel casing. It's called camel casing because the capital letters in the middle of the word are kind of like, people think of it as like humps on a camel. So a camel has like humps in the middle of its back. So when you do camel casing of variable names and things like that, oftentimes it looks like there's humps in the middle of it, kind of like a camel. Okay, but that's called camel casing. So if you wanna learn about what styles you can apply to your app, well, just look up some CSS styles. And just remember that anything that has a dash in it, like background dash color, when you use it in your React Native app, is going to be, you're going to convert it to camel casing, background, and then capital C color, like that, smush it together. Okay, so going back to my kind of our template skeleton code that we have here, you can see that in action. You can see if you look at the style section of this kind of skeleton code app that it gives you, you can see that camel casing. I see here, the first one here, justify content. Notice how that's camel casing. Padding top. I remember that from CSS, but in regular CSS, it was padding dash top. But now it's camel case, padding capital T top. Background color, there's another one there. Okay, font size here, font weight, text align. Okay, so if you want to figure out the styling that you can apply, all the CSS styles just carry directly over, except you just got to convert the name of the style to camel case. Okay, so there's some stuff about styling. You can apply multiple styles to different parts of your app, and you can use any of the CSS styles, just camel case it instead of dash it. Dash for a space instead of you convert it from a dash for a space instead of to camel casing. Okay, so that's styling. So that's one thing I think that's going to help you make your apps really, really attractive.